Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
On their way to Chase's surprise date position, he and Brook Lynn are shocked when they find a pregnant woman, played by Lily Cardone, unconscious on the ground, but alive. They shake her awake, and when Brook Lynn says she'll call 911, the woman freaks and asks them not to. The woman insists she's forfeiture, she just got dizzy, and her OBGYN told her to watch her blood sugar. She's from out of city, so they offer to take her to her hostel. Brook Lynn and Chase introduce themselves, and she says her name is Delilah. Suddenly, she's mega hit with pains, so they contend on taking her to the sanitarium. Drink home, Portia. At Curtis and Portia's, Curtis wants Portia to have the house because she loves it, and it's the perfect place to raise their child. Portia accepts the house, and he says he'll have the paperwork drawn up. She thanks him for this and is moved to tears. 2 babies, 1 daddy? Jordan stops by the sanitarium to speak to Britt about her routine lab work, given that she has only 1 order, and admits she could be pregnant. She's late, she's been sexually active, and she has used protection all the time. Britt offers to run a test, but they're intruded by a nanny who needs Britt. Jordan says she can pick up a gestation test and be in touch. Overprotective, or not enough? Liz snags Lucas to check in on him, given his problems with Marco and Sidwell. He tells her that she's being a little protective, but Liz says bad effects be at Windmere, and some may say it's accursed. He says, speaking of curses, how was her Valentine's Day date with Rick? She tells him they had a nice time and also makes the reason that she has to check on a case to run off and avoid telling him the details. 2 campaigners, 1 child. At the Quartermain house, Jason finds Tracy taking Danny to task for turning the gatehouse into his private man cave and leaving the place a mess. That's when Alexis walks in, having gotten a call from Danny's academy, notifying her that he's skipped 6 times. Alexis explains that they couldn't get a hold of Jason, so they called her. Jason tells his son he's going to apologize to the staff for making a mess at the gatehouse and will clean it up. It's also off limits for 2 months, and no more cutting academy. Danny jokes he wouldn't skip academy again unless it's an exigency, as one no way knows when you'll need help hiding a body. Jason's face says it all, he's not regaled. Danny also takes off to meet a friend, and Alexis and Tracy can't believe he let Danny off so smoothly. Tracy tells Jason that if he doesn't parent Danny, who will? Jason says that he wants to talk to them about that, as he hasn't streamlined his will since Sam passed. He wants to make sure Danny has someone to look after him if he's not around, and both Alexis and Tracy rise to the task. Alexis points out that Danny is her grandson, and he could live with his family Scout, which is what Sam wanted. Tracy says Danny is also Monica's grandson, and she'd want him then. Plus, Scout is a Quartermain. Jason says he's only opening the discussion right now, and there's also Carly. Both Tracy and Alexis agree hell no. Jason thanks them both for stepping up for Danny, and he'll let them know when he decides, friends or further. Danny meets up with Charlotte in the domain, and the boy brings up that they no way talked about the kiss, which Rocco intruded. Charlotte says it took her by surprise, but made her realize she wanted to do it for a while. She calls it the perfect first kiss, but it should be their last. Charlotte explains it might make effects awkward for Rocco. Plus, her mama's been super defensive recently, and there's also the situation with her dad. However, she's going with him if he has to run. Danny doesn't want her to go, or to forget about the kiss. She doesn't moreover and leans in to kiss him. Caught in the act. At Windmere, Marco opens the secret safe and is caught by his father with Britt's drug. He claims he was getting her coming injection ready, but Sidwell says that's Pascal's job, and they need to keep that woman in line. That's when Carly enters and asks, "You aren't talking about me, are you?" Sidwell says they were agitating a business associate, and he invited her over for a private discussion. Marco leaves them, and Sidwell tells Carly that he wants her to help him plan a regale party to invite all of Lucas' family to get to know Marco. Carly says it's thoughtful, but reminds him she's courting Jack Brennan, WSB agent. Sidwell insists she bring him as he can see firsthand that nothing ardent is going on then. She accepts. They're intruded when Sidwell gets a call, and defenses himself to take it. Carly also begins to snoop baby in distress. Marco shows up at the sanitarium and tells Lucas he nearly got the meds, but his pater caught him, and he covered. Also, just before he left, his family showed up for a secret meeting with his dad. Suddenly, Brook Lynn and Chase arrive with Delilah, who's in labor. She's scarifying as she's not due for 2 further months. Lucas has Liz run her Brit, and Delilah asks Brook Lynn to stay with her. Delilah is taken to the trauma room and hooked up to machines, and Brook Lynn keeps her calm. Britt comes in with Lucas to begin examining her. As Brook Lynn holds the woman's hand, we get a regard of a mysterious tattoo. So obviously, this must mean she's in a cult, right? Dawn of Day returns. Meanwhile, Felicia speaks with Chase about the woman he brought in, as she's her patient advocate. Chase tells her what happened and what little he knows about Delilah. Pregnant or not? Jordan heads home with a gestation test and shoves it in her bag when Curtis appears. He tells her about making peace with Portia and giving her the house so his baby can be raised there. He can't believe he's about to be a father again. And we can't believe he may have gotten 2 women pregnant at the same time, to go for it or not. At Charlie's, Justine accuses Sonny of wanting to get close to her to compromise her, while he accuses her of getting close to him to find substantiation to take him down. Still, Sonny believes both their dockets have shifted. Justine admits that at some point, he stopped being the miscreant she wanted to take down and came someone she started minding about. Sonny tells Justine he likes her as well, and there's nothing he'd rather do right now than kiss her. She notes that would be a mistake, and their getting involved would impact both their careers. Still, neither is ready to walk down from the other. Sonny proposes one night together to test the waters, or to satisfy their urges and walk down. He asks what she wants. In the show's final moments alone in her home, Portia smiles with gashes in her eyes. She also calls Isaiah and asks him to stop by. At Jordan's, Curtis says he needs to find himself a home, which prompts her to ask him to move in with her. At the sanitarium, Brook Lynn finds Chase and tells him she's spooked for Delilah and her baby. In the trauma room, Britt says they need to do an exigency C-section, or she'll lose the baby. In the domain, after their kiss, Charlotte tells Danny she should get home before her mama realizes she's gone. Danny asks her to let him know if she runs off with her pater. Alexis leaves the Quartermain estate, and Tracy asks Jason what the real story is and what trouble he's in. Jason says he doesn't know what she means and walks down. At Windmere, Carly finds the retired safe behind the painting. Finally, at Charlie's, Sonny and Justine spare in and kiss. On the coming General Hospital, Britt tells Lucas she has to operate now if they want to save Mama and child, and Sidwell tells Ava, "We're conniving commodity, care to join us?" Port Charles awoke to a week filled with uncertainty, hidden motives, and moments that tested courage in ways its citizens never expected. Every corner of the city seemed to hum with secrets, every glance carried a warning, and every choice demanded courage. Life in this city, it seemed, was a baptism in resilience, a trial by fire where the vulnerable were protected, the brave rewarded, and those who misstepped were reminded in no uncertain terms that consequences were inescapable. It all began on a quiet evening when Harrison Chase and Brook Lynn Quartermain set out for a surprise date, the kind of ordinary plan that promised warmth and connection. Yet ordinary was quickly swept aside. Along the way, they found a pregnant woman collapsed on the sidewalk, her body trembling, consciousness fleeting. The sight shook them both, the fragility of life, the immediacy of responsibility, and the stark reminder that action often must be taken before reflection. Together, they shook her awake, their voices firm yet gentle. Brook Lynn instinctively reached for her phone to call 911, but the woman recoiled, panic-stricken. She insisted she was fine, that dizziness was the culprit, and that her OB/GYN had warned her to monitor her blood sugar. She was from out of town, a stranger in need, yet she would not be ignored. Chase and Brook Lynn offered to escort her to her hotel, introducing themselves as they tried to anchor her fears. Delilah, she murmured her name, fragile yet alive. The calm was fleeting, she was soon struck with sharp pains that left no room for hesitation. The couple's decision was instant, they would take her to the hospital, their sense of urgency overriding all other plans. Meanwhile, at the Ashford home, the tides of generosity and reconciliation were rising. Curtis Ashford, confronted with the challenge of creating stability for his family amidst change, decided that Portia Robinson should have the house they had shared. It was more than a gesture, it was an acknowledgement of love, of responsibility, and of the understanding that some sacrifices must be made to protect those we cherish. Portia, moved to tears, accepted Curtis's gift, aware that the home would provide security and warmth for their child. Curtis promised to draw up the paperwork, formalizing what had become both an act of love and a moral imperative. The moment was brief, yet it resonated with the quiet power of encouragement, the recognition that acts of generosity can transform even the most complicated situations into moments of grace. At General Hospital, tension simmered in quieter, more personal forms. Jordan Ashford visited Britt Westbourne to discuss routine lab work, given that she had only one kidney. Jordan admitted, almost reluctantly, that she might be pregnant, unprotected intimacy and the uncertainty of timing adding layers of anxiety. Britt prepared to run a test, but duty intervened, a nurse needed her attention, leaving Jordan to retrieve a test herself and promise to follow up. Even this seemingly minor moment reflected the constant balancing act in Port Charles, where personal stakes intersected with professional responsibility, and each decision was imbued with moral weight. Encouragement and vigilance became twin necessities. Jordan was preparing to confront a potential new life while also navigating her own limitations. At Windermere, Lucas Jones found himself confronted by Elizabeth Baldwin, whose protective instincts were heightened by recent threats and uncertainties surrounding Marco and Sidwell. Lucas, confident yet irritated, brushed aside her concerns, insisting that she was overly protective. Elizabeth countered with a measured warning about the dangers lurking at Windermere, reminding him that even those who seem safe may hide perils. Lucas's attempt at levity, teasing her about her Valentine's Day with Rick Lansing, was met with graceful deflection. The encounter underscored a recurring theme in Port Charles, even in moments of humor or everyday interaction, stakes were never far from the surface, and caution was always warranted. In the Quartermain estate, domestic order collided with adolescent rebellion. Jason Morgan confronted Danny over the chaos he had left in the gatehouse, exacerbated by the teen's repeated school absences. Alexis arrived, adding to the reprimand with the news of his sixth skipped class, highlighting that responsibility could not be ignored. Danny, ever clever, joked about emergencies involving concealed bodies, a dark humor that elicited disapproval from Jason. The punishment was clear, a 2-month ban on the gatehouse and mandatory cleanup, a measure meant to instill accountability and moral responsibility. Jason, while enforcing discipline, also addressed the long-term question of guardianship, discussing with Tracy and Alexis who should care for Danny in the event of his absence. Both women argued passionately, invoking family legacy, emotional bonds, and the wishes of those no longer living. The exchange reflected the recurring baptism motif in Port Charles. Decisions carried profound moral weight, and responsibility demanded both reflection and action. Meanwhile, young love blossomed and trembled in equal measure. In the park, Danny and Charlotte Cassadine confronted the aftermath of their first kiss, interrupted previously by Rocco. The encounter was a mixture of surprise, reflection, and raw emotion. Charlotte admitted the kiss revealed a desire long suppressed, while Danny expressed his reluctance to let the moment go unacknowledged. Yet both recognized the complications, parental oversight, existing relationships, and the uncertainties of adolescence all demanded caution. Despite the tension, they chose connection over avoidance, sealing their moment with another kiss, a small baptism into the complexity of romantic choices and ethical deliberation for their age. The threat lay not in the physical act but in the ripples it could create among families and friends, a reminder that even innocent actions carry consequences. At Windermere, secrets were being unearthed. Marco Rios, caught attempting to access Britt's medications, claimed he only sought to administer a necessary dose. Sidwell, unyielding, reminded him that Britt's care was not at his discretion and that Pascal was assigned to that responsibility. Carly Spencer arrived, her presence interrupting the tense exchange. Once alone with Sidwell, she was asked to assist in planning a dinner party for Lucas's family and Marco, a gesture designed to foster connection and trust. Carly hesitated, mindful of her relationship with Jack Brennan and past WSB investigations. Sidwell's insistence and reassurance of transparency persuaded her to agree, yet curiosity soon led her to explore the study further, revealing a hidden safe behind a painting, a literal and metaphorical repository of secrets. The revelation underscored the ongoing dance of power and secrecy in Port Charles. Every discovery brought both potential aid and potential peril, encouragement and implicit threat intertwined. Back at General Hospital, Delilah's condition became urgent. Brook Lynn and Chase arrived at the trauma room with the woman in distress, her panic palpable as she realized labor had begun 2 months early. Lucas coordinated with Elizabeth to ensure Britt was alerted immediately. As the OBGYN examined her, Delilah clutched Brook Lynn's hand, seeking comfort while under the pressure of life and death stakes. Britt detected internal bleeding, a critical complication, and quickly determined that an emergency C-section was necessary to save the baby. The room became a crucible of tension and care. Every action mattered, every decision carried immediate consequence, and courage and decisiveness were required. Brook Lynn, holding Delilah's hand, became a symbol of encouragement and moral steadfastness, a beacon amid the storm. Felicia Scorpio, acting as patient advocate, coordinated with Chase, emphasizing the need for clear communication and advocacy in high-stakes medical scenarios. Meanwhile, the complexities of impending parenthood unfolded elsewhere. Jordan Ashford, clutching a newly purchased pregnancy test, was interrupted by Curtis's arrival. He shared news of reconciling with Portia and gifting her the family home, a gesture intended to secure stability for their child. The juxtaposition of potential pregnancies, responsibility, and the looming uncertainties of genetic paternity created a tense moral atmosphere. Curtis's role as a father, both past and future, required careful deliberation, and Jordan's concealed knowledge of the test introduced the ever-present potential for deception, intentional or inadvertent. Encouragement, honesty, and personal integrity became paramount, while the angry threat lay in the possibility of miscommunication or unintentional betrayal. At Charlie's, Justine Turner confronted Sonny Corinthos, each accusing the other of ulterior motives, she, aiming to gather evidence, he, attempting to exert influence. Yet in the crucible of confrontation, their perspectives shifted. Sonny admitted his attachment, asserting that his intentions were no longer manipulative, while Justine acknowledged the evolution of her feelings. The pair confronted temptation and risk, knowing that a single misstep could imperil careers, reputations, and even lives. Their decision to give in to a brief moment of intimacy was both baptism and test, a deliberate choice in the face of moral ambiguity, reinforced by the ever-present threat of exposure and consequence. In Port Charles, love and danger are rarely separable, and their night together exemplified the balance of encouragement and warning, pleasure and peril. Meanwhile, other residents faced quieter but equally meaningful trials. Curtis offered Portia the family home, ensuring stability for their child. Jordan negotiated the hidden implications of a potential pregnancy. Brook Lynn and Chase navigated life-saving intervention. Young Danny and Charlotte explored the boundaries of first love. At Windmere, Carly discovered hidden truths, while at the hospital, Delilah's life hung in the balance. Each scenario underscored a common truth: the people of Port Charles were continually baptized by circumstance, challenged to act with courage, and forced to weigh morality against necessity. Encouraging words, careful guidance, and urgent intervention coexisted with angry threats, moral imperatives, and the consequences of missteps. In the quiet moments after turmoil, Portia smiled, tears tracing her cheeks as she called Isaiah, the weight of gratitude and hope heavy upon her. Jordan contemplated Curtis's offer to move in, her mind balancing desire, responsibility, and the unknown implications of her potential pregnancy. Brook Lynn confided in Chase, fear mingling with determination, while Britt prepared to operate, the life of a mother and child in her hands. Charlotte returned home, Danny lingering only with the promise of communication. Carly uncovered the safe, a tangible reminder that secrets lurked even in familiar spaces. Sonny and Justine shared a single kiss, their hearts and careers delicately entwined. And Sidwell, ever calculating, hinted at future plots with Ava, the promise of schemes and confrontations yet to unfold. Through all of this, Port Charles demanded courage. Each character faced trials that baptized them into a world where ethical clarity, quick thinking, and compassion were essential. Encouragement came in acts of love, protection, and honesty. Angry threats came in the form of moral imperatives, physical danger, and the constant weight of consequences. From sidewalks to trauma rooms, from quiet apartments to bustling estates, life in Port Charles was an unrelenting test of heart, will, and conscience. Every decision mattered, every action had repercussions, and every choice shaped not just individual fates, but the intertwined destinies of the city itself. In the end, the city held its breath. Lives teetered on the edge, relationships were tested, and secrets threatened to explode. Baptism into the reality of Port Charles was complete, a life where hope and fear, encouragement and threats, love and danger, coexisted in every heartbeat, in every step, and in every whispered secret. For those brave enough to act, courage would be their guide. For those who misstepped, consequences would arrive swiftly, unyielding and inescapable.